think about it. If you have, $100 or £100 that you're able to exchange with another person. Well, if you exchange it once, and then, for example, that person exchanges it back that one time, you made 100, right?
Yeah.
But if you were to say, no, let's see if there's ways we can provide value at a higher rate, so we accelerate it, and you start passing that money back and forth 10 times during that same hour. Now what happens? You just made 1,000 per hour.
That's right.
Same money. You didn't have to print more money because there's plenty of it. It was about how fast you're able to exchange it back and forth. And that's one thing that when I learned that concept and I understood it at a deeper level, just like that, all of a sudden it wasn't so mysterious. It was very formulated. It was very easy to say, all right, well, this is how I make more money. I got to find a way to provide value for another person that they'll want to exchange it. And the real key is, it's not just one person, but how can I do it for many, many, many people?
Exactly. You're leveraging basically whatever you have.
That's right. Absolutely. You leverage your talents. You can use your passions and your talents that go along with it, right? Those things that actually serve people and solve a problem that they're wanting to have solved. And that's the beauty. I mean, I love watching a TV show called Shark Tank. I don't know if you... I know I think there's a British equivalent as well.
I think so, yeah, but I'm not really a TV buff, but I do think there is.
Yeah, I don't recall the name, but it's a place where entrepreneurs go and pitch their products to loan sharks, so to speak, right? Or people that are willing to pay for a certain percentage of their company.
Oh, our one's called the Dragon's Den. That's it.
Say again.
Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I love that show because for them to really get in people's face and say, listen, are you ridiculous? And you've seen people, they're passionate. They love what they have. And they're so passionately and emotionally invested into it that sometimes they become blinded by that passion, right?
And is that a danger? Because sometimes some people can become a legend in their own mind, but when it comes to their reality, they get crushed, severely, because people just think, what is it that you're offering? We don't understand. It may be too futuristic. There's all sort of factors that go toward people saying no. They may not want to do business with you, but they're not with you. They're not on the same page.
Absolutely. I just watched one last week where the man invented a very simple contraption. It was the new iPads. They're starting to become very popular.
Yes, that's right.
And one thing he hated the sound of it. He liked to listen to music, so he cupped his hand around the speaker to hear it.
Okay.
And then he had a brilliant idea. He said, well, rather than cupping my hand around the speaker, why don't I just produce a little plastic object to do that for me?
Oh, okay.
And so you just slip it right on the iPad, and all of a sudden you could hear the sound easily 3-4 times better.
Really? Whoa.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is, of course, when the Sharks heard about it, they said, okay, well, what do you sell it for? He says, I sell it for about, between $19 and $25. They said, how much does it cost to make? He says, about $1.50.
Wow, that is profit.
Yeah, amazing. And so, of course, naturally, they're going to start fighting over it, right?
Of course.
For who's going to invest in that. And that's what's brilliant. That's the kind of thing where he solved the need. He solved the problem, and even a problem that maybe somebody hadn't even thought of. It might have just been an inconvenience, but we just never think that far, right?
Do you think that most people, the reason why they don't get involved in anything entrepreneurial is that they see everything out there, like what big companies do, all the nice and shiny stuff, and they think, right, that's it. This is how far it's going to go, and there's nothing more that can be invented. But there always is going to be something that's going to be invented, but they just don't join in.
Right. There's amazing inventions out there, but oftentimes they don't market it.
Yeah.
You may not have an original idea, but you can do it better.
I've
always viewed myself that way.
Yeah.
Always as somebody that perfects things. I like to build the better mousetrap, right?
Yeah.
And I did that within finances too. I left the financial advising industry because I realized it wasn't working. And I figured, if I'm going to teach people, I better do it myself.
Yeah.
So I found ways through business to develop streams of income that I was able to retire when I was 28 years old.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, it was the most boring time of my life.
What, retiring?
Yeah. The thing I look forward to, and the thing I could only dream to do by the age of 40, all of a sudden I was at 28, and I thought, well, now what am I going to do with my time?
Oh
You know, I had
man.
at that time I had one and a half children.
Yeah.
You know, now I have 5 children under the age of 8. But at that time I only had one and a half children, and so my wife and I were kind of fighting over who would be the mom.
Right.
And I didn't feel like I had that purpose.
Mm.
You know, and that fire that was burning. I knew it was there, but I didn't have that way to focus it and channel it into something good.
Mm.
And that's when that's when I realized. I thought, well, what can I do? What more can I do? And even though I vowed never to go back to doing financial advising type of stuff, what I did is I said, you know what? I still love teaching people about financial prosperity. Is there a way I can do it?
Yeah.
And so over the next few years, you know, I started coaching people and helping them out. At first, I just did it for free, but I realized when I did it for free, nobody would take action.
Mm.
And when they don't take action, they don't see new results.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. You know, I didn't come to this world to not change anybody's lives. I wanted to leave a huge footprint on this planet.
Exactly.
That would create that ripple effect. Hence the name of my company, Money Ripples. Right? I wanted to really create that ripple effect, the ripples of prosperity throughout, you know, families' lives, communities, and even into nations.
Mm-hmm.
Because as more people prosper and grow, things get better. You know, the life gets better. When we become more abundant, the world becomes more abundant. Mm-hmm. It has to start with us first, not asking our politicians or other people to do it for us.
Thank you.
It's up to us to create that life.
Exactly. Thank you. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's why, you know, just as your listeners here, the entrepreneurs, I mean, I got into being an entrepreneur for that freedom and that control, to control my own life and dictate my own prosperity and my own. You know, if I'm going to lose in life, I want to lose on my terms, not because of somebody else.
Mm. And do you think, in a way, that people have lost that somewhat? They really do believe that it is the governments and everybody else that's got to be making my life much more manageable, rather than me taking responsibility and basically be sovereign to my own existence.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The entitlement mentality, as Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump say, mm-hmm. is the number one reason why people are failing right now.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. I believe that mentality where you believe that somebody else has got to take care of you. It's never your fault. Mm. You're never the hero. You're always the victim.
Yeah.
I mean, even if that were true, even if we said that were true, what kind of life is that?
Very dismal.
Yeah, isn't that depressing?
It's not good.
Why would you want that?
No.
And so that's why I became an entrepreneur, is because I thought, you know, I can't trust that somebody else is going to take care of me. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not all codependent with each other. I would even say interdependent with each other, mm-hmm. where it's through us providing value for each other.
That's right.
That's how we all prosper together. It's not the dog eat dog, you know, I've got to step on you to get higher type of world. It's a matter of how we can better each other's lives.
Right.
And so that's how you move from passion and purpose, and you start to use your talents in a way that other people are looking for, that you're providing a need. Just like what I did with my company, what I realized is that when people became scarce, and in fact many times I kept hearing the same old excuse of people saying, you know, I would love to pay for your services, Chris, but I just don't know where to find the money. And you have to understand that I believe that everything in life happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened to me was it was about 5 years ago. I went from, you know, again, being retired and being a millionaire, especially with having a lot of real estate and so forth, mm-hmm. all of a sudden to now being in the hole nearly $1 million.
Whoa. How did you get out?
And it was not a fun time. And I found myself in the hole each and every month over $10,000 a month, meaning that, you know, my expenses were $16,000 a month.
Jeez.
But I was only bringing in about $6,000. I say only. I know some people might say, gee, that would have been awesome. But for me at that time, doing what I was doing, it was horrible. And so I remember losing my $750,000 house. You know, I turned in my Mercedes because I said, you know, and of course Mercedes in America is more expensive than Europe because, you know, they double the price. You know, but so I mean, I had a, you know, wonderful Mercedes that I thought was the car I loved, and I was stripped of all of that. I basically had to turn it all in, turn in the keys, cash everything in, and then start digging myself out of the hole to where I wasn't negative cash flow anymore each and every month, but getting back to positive, and then paying down those debts, which in a matter of 3 years I was able to pay down $800,000 of debt.
Wow, that must be a real gut-wrenching thing to go through, like to see what you built up being taken away slowly. I mean, no, please do carry on.
Yeah, it was a hard time, and I'll admit, I mean, maybe many of you felt like this before, where you feel like you don't know where the money's going to come from, you don't know how you're going to make it.
Yeah.
I was even wondering about how I'd feed my family. There was even one point where my wife, with having all of her young kids, just said, "Hey, would it just be easier if we moved out of the house and stayed with my sister, and then you just figure it all out?" And I thought, no, absolutely not. That you inspired me. Why would I want that inspiration to leave me?
Exactly.
And I remember, I mean, there was a time where we got into a huge fight about money, about where the money was going to come from. I said, you know what, I don't know. But one thing I have faith in is that I've done things to make the law of attraction work in my life. I just know it's going to happen. And I remember marching outside, went to the mailbox, and when I pulled out the mail, as I pulled out, there's a letter there from the local doctor's office that we had went. And all of a sudden inside, when I opened it up, there was a check for $42 and some odd cents. And I remember laughing out loud, which, of course, it was a community box where I was getting my mail from, so I'm sure there's some neighbors wondering what the heck was going on with this insane guy laughing out loud by himself. But it was just one of those times where, you had to really apply that faith and let it work.
Yeah.
And like all things, I never believe that there are any accidents, that everything happens for a reason. And what was interesting is when I remember those people's words ringing through my head saying, people that were even better off than me saying, boy, I just wish I had 2 nickels to rub together. I wish I had more money that I could even save some money. I have some surplus every month. And I remember just getting mad. I said, you know what? I've had to learn to get really dang cheap to really live on a tight budget and find cash and find ways to produce income in random ways to be able to make ends meet and even reverse the situation. And I got mad, and not the mad that just, makes you stomp off angry.
Yeah.
It was that resolute anger, that drive, that passion that started fueling and burning.
Yeah.
And I remember it jolted me awake about 4 a.m., 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was going out for a run, and those words kept ringing in my head. And then all of a sudden, the answers of things that I learned came to my mind. I immediately ran home, got on my computer. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. And a half hour later, I had my cash flow tips, which are now on my website, on moneyripples.com. A lot of those tips are now in printed form for free on my website.
Okay.
The 7 secrets to free up cash today. It's funny how 4 years later, those tips have pretty much not even been touched, other than adding more examples of how my clients have applied it too, right? And that was like a big shift. And so what happened is I filled a need. And so when I started telling people, hey, here's ways you can actually find more money, that it's already there. You're just not seeing it. You have to have the right eyes to see it.
Yeah.
And when I started showing people, and the average person of over 500 entrepreneurs I've helped, the average person has found over $34,000 a year that they can put back in their life, whether it be through freeing up in taxes, from their debts, from just different things, or even just tracking their money. I mean, little things like that people just don't do. And that just totally revolutionized and what has really fueled Money Ripples to be what it is today. And so, and that's why I bring that up, and I bring that up to kind of blend into the cash flow generators discussion, because that was what really got me to realize how easy it is to make money. Is that you have something that's of value, you make sure you market it to death to get people to see that value.
Yeah.
And then those people that want that value, that resonate with it, that want it, will want to exchange for it. And that's as simple as it is. And the faster you're able to get that word out there and exchange for it, because if you would have heard, if I would have done nothing, if I would have never promoted my business or anything that I've done over the last several years, there's no way that I would be talking to you right now.
Yeah.
I would be somebody who had a really good idea, but I was absolutely broke. And that does not do the world justice.
No.
Like, you need to get the message out there in a way that people say, oh my goodness, where have you been for my whole life? Or as I hear all the time, people saying, my goodness, I wish I had you in my pocket 10, 20 years ago. And I say, well, it's a good thing you found me now and not 10 or 20 years later.
Exactly.
And that's the point of the cash flow generator. So let me cover that, because that's my path, but your path might be different. Because, for example, I love owning my own business. But I know a lot of people that get absolutely stressed thinking about having their own business. It's just not something they prefer to do. It's not that they can't do it. but they just don't have the passion to do it. And if they try to be in business, trying to replicate some other person that's not them, what happens is that you become disappointed. You think, oh my goodness, why can't I do it like them? How can this person who's dumber than me